Reading for Wildlife. Written and illustrated by Zella, a project by Zella and friends. An elephant for breakfast.
Chapter 27. The Family Gathering. As soon as he was released from prison, Uncle Cosmo hurried back to Wisteria House. He swept Josephine up in his arms and gave her a big kiss. Then he thanked each of his nieces and nephews for all their help. It turned out that Sir Reginald Ashurst had been on the police suspect list for years, but they had never had enough evidence to arrest him until now. Everyone congregated in the kitchen to help prepare a family feast. The delicious smell of roasting rosemary drifted out of the house. As they made a toast for Uncle Cosmo's safe return, the noise levels steadily rose to a pleasant pitch. Over the laughter and joy at being reunited, Rose's voice piped up with a serious question. But who on earth would buy ivory? We've been trying to find out, said Bella. When I Googled ivory, there were articles which said there is still a very strong market for ivory in parts of Asia. The New York Times said that the United States is the world's second largest market, added Johnny. Bella, Johnny and Tom had spent hours researching elephants while Uncle Cosmo was in prison. But why? Exclaimed Freddie. People kill elephants so they can use the tusks to carve ornaments and jewellery and sometimes to make special potions, said Johnny. In the USA, some people like to use ivory to make antiques and fancy inlaid furniture, and also to hang the tusks as trophies inside their houses, added Tom. The world is a much nicer place with more elephants and less jewellery, said Bella. She looked at Josephine and frowned. Sorry, Josephine. But I love my bracelet. It's very old, and I'm sure it was made before they really realised how endangered elephants are, said Josephine. It reminds me of my grandmother. It's so beautiful. But Josephine, the world would be better with more elephants, don't you agree? Said Rose kindly. Yes, the world would be better with more elephants, but I can't help loving my bracelet and the memories it holds, said Josephine. You know, it's not just ivory, added Uncle Cosmo, defending Josephine. We all make choices when we buy things. And this bracelet isn't so bad because Josephine didn't buy it or kill an elephant for it. It was a gift. Surely, said Mother in a conciliatory tone, one small bracelet doesn't make a difference. But that's just it, said Bella stridently. On this issue, it does make a massive difference. It's our collective decision that matters. Well put, Bella. No man is an island. We all make a difference, said Father. Bella glowered at Josephine and her Aunt Alicia and said, Not all of us. Uncle Cosmo smoothed the discord. You know, since the Ice Ages, people have wanted to carve and treasure ivory. If we could time travel back only 200 years to the plains of Africa, they would be teeming with millions of elephants. I would like to do that, said Freddie. If we've been using ivory since the Ice Ages, then why don't we have enough, said Rose. Ivory goods used to be very rare, said Uncle Crispin, but people have always wanted more luxury goods. Suddenly, with industrialization, a much larger number of people had the wealth to buy the things they wanted. Ivory was made into piano keys, said Tom. White billiard balls, added Johnny. And brushes, combs, and ornaments, said Bella. Lots of pretty things, said Josephine. Bella glared at her. Now it's almost too late, added Father.
Thank you.
I remember when I first arrived in Africa, I saw pictures on the news of Kenya burning its stores of ivory, said Josephine. Why did they burn ivory? Asked Tom. To send a powerful message to the world, said Josephine. After that, people understood how endangered elephants are. A few months later, there was a world ban on ivory poaching, added Bella. Did that help the elephants? Asked Rose. Yes, the population started to grow, but it only worked for about 10 years, said Johnny. Why? Asked Rose. It's not entirely clear. But I think there must be a link to the official sales of confiscated and stockpiled ivory tusks, said Uncle Cosmo. These sales suddenly made it easier to trade in illegal ivory and to pass it off as legal. It makes sense that with more ivory available from these official sales, the ivory market could grow, said Johnny. I guess that ivory is still a status symbol in parts of the world, said Bella. As Asia and the USA get wealthier, the demand for ivory is likely to increase, observed Tom. Now there are fewer than 500,000 elephants left in Africa, said Johnny. Far fewer, said Tom, and it's falling rapidly. The latest figures are roughly 350,000 in Africa and about 30,000 in Asia. There aren't many in Asia, said Rose. I love the Asian elephant, said Bella. People often forget about the Asian elephant. It's the smaller cousin of the African elephant, and it likes to hide away in dense emerald green forests. Do you know that there is a Hindu god called Ganesha, said Tom. This god has the head of an elephant and the body of a human. We learned about him last term at school. I'd like to learn more about that. Did you know the female Asian elephants often have only small tusks or no tusks at all, said Johnny. They say the big tuskers of Asia are also fast disappearing because of the ivory trade, said Tom. Asian elephants' main problem is land loss and their habitat changing, added Bella. You know, the elephant populations are dropping at an alarming rate, said Tom. Some writers say that elephants are likely to be extinct in the wild within 10 years. I've read it may only be 6 years, said Johnny. No one knows the exact time. Might even be 20 years, said Uncle Cosmo. You know, there are so many great people and charities working to save them that maybe elephants have a chance. It's so sad, said Bella. Elephants are amazing. If one of their herd dies, it's like someone in your family dying. Elephants cry, just like us, their eyes well with tears. That is true, added Uncle Cosmo. I've seen it on safari. The elephants mourn the death of one of their own, just like us. I've heard they will even mourn the death of an extremely special human. They're highly intelligent, said Tom. Just like us, said Freddie. Did you know that the Chinese translation for ivory is elephant teeth, said Johnny. This is why there's a misconception that tusks can fall out naturally, said Uncle Cosmo. Can they? Said Tom. No, said Johnny. Only the baby tusks fall out after a year, and permanent ones replace them. Tusks grow throughout an elephant's life. Poachers kill the elephants to get their tusks. It's so brutal, said Bella. The killing of wildlife is often about the money, said Josephine. It's a huge incentive, agreed Uncle Cosmo. The rhinoceros, too, are being killed for their horn. Unfortunately, a sufficient number of people believe that it has medicinal value or adds to their status. Yes, agreed Johnny. This has made rhino horn worth more than gold. You know that rhino horn is made almost entirely of keratin, the same protein found in human hair, fingernails, toenails, said Tom. There is a chap, name of Wilby, I believe, said Uncle Cosmo, who sends his toenail clippings by post to the Chinese embassy in Pretoria. How disgusting, said Bella. Why would he do that? He wanted to show how pointless it is to kill rhino for keratin, said Uncle Cosmo. Because anyone could obtain this treasured keratin just by grinding up their own toenail clippings, said Tom. And it's free, observed Freddie, and easy to find. Look! He pointed at his own fingernails. They can have mine. And mine, shouted Rose. And mine, chorused the other children. When the room had quietened, Bella drew the conversation back to ivory. Something I found interesting was an old Chinese belief that ivory protects against poison, and that chopsticks will change colour when they come into contact with poisoned food. Will ivory really change colour with poison? Asked Rose. No, said Uncle Cosmo, shaking his head. But remember, it's not so very long ago that we held similar views, said Josephine. When I was a child and lived in Edinburgh, I remember there was an old ivory book cover called Barbreck's Bone in the National Museum of Scotland. The good people of Argyll used to believe it could cure madness. Such a belief is madness, said Bella, as if touching some piece of old ivory could cure anybody. I hate ivory ornaments, said Tom. They remind me that an elephant has died. I wish they would burn them all. But that wouldn't solve the problem, said Father. And it wouldn't bring the elephants back. The heat of the fire wouldn't dry their tears. The old ivory carvers in China do carve exquisitely, observed Mother. It's such a shame that they choose to use ivory. In her house in Paris, my grandmother had little wooden animals carved by old Chinese ivory carvers. The way the light danced on the wood was just extraordinary and exquisite. I find it much more beautiful. Wouldn't it be better, said Rose, to build a few large museums for all the ivory in the world? That way people could give their ivory to the museum. To house all the ivory in the world, they'd need to be elephantine museums, said Johnny. I think that is a really marvellous idea, said Uncle Cosmo. It might work, particularly if governments made it illegal to own ivory, but legal to donate it to a museum. I agree, said Josephine. I would happily give my bracelet if it were illegal to own ivory. She took off her bracelet. After listening to you children talk, I won't wear this bracelet again. I think that only elephants should wear ivory. They all smiled at Josephine. I find it so odd that ivory can be a status symbol, said Bella. My friends would think less of someone for supporting the killing of elephants, said Johnny. Mine too, said Freddie. It's so selfish to want to own ivory, said Rose. Can people think of nothing better to compete for, said Tom. I agree, said Bella heartily. I wish people would find something else as a status symbol. Well, said Aunt Lily, during the Italian Renaissance, rich Italians competed with each other over who had the most fabulous garden. The amazing water features and fountains used gravity and engineering feats so clever that they created gardens more stunning than any ivory ornament in the world. If only people took more pride in gardening. If only, mused Mother. Lucky barked. Socrates lay asleep on the windowsill of Wisteria House. The family smiled at each other and felt a quiet sense of relief for everyone's safe return. At the same time, the children felt great sadness for the elephant herds whose families would not, like theirs, come back.
With enormous thanks to Joanna Lumley.
Here is how you can help. Share the story. Adopt an animal. Visit when you can. Educate yourself. Donate to a conservation charity. To find out more about Reading for Wildlife, visit zellahunter.com or at Lady Zella Books, or follow the Reading for Wildlife YouTube channel.